now. Come on in. Oh, 'tis our delight for the red and white. The Imps are here to stay. Oh, 'tis our delight for the red and white. The Imps are here to stay.
Morning, everybody. Hope you're well. I'm out walking the dog. I thought I'd do a quick video for you, mainly because I just struggle for time at the minute for content. As many of you know, started a new job pretty much full time. So it's getting a little bit hard to do some of the Stacey West stuff, but I'm squeezing it in. And this morning the dog decided he wanted a long walk. So here we go. It is cold this morning. Brian Rundle's online already. It's even colder when you've made a choice to shave off your beard and give your skin a little bit of a breather. And suddenly it's bloody freezing. I wanted to talk a little bit about tonight's game because I've been following some of the social media stuff, and I think there's a bit of apathy about the game. I think there's a feeling that they're coming to us 7 unbeaten, in good form, only one outcome. We've been well beaten by them the last 2 seasons at our place. Got some very good players that we both rate, as in Marcus Harness, great player, Ronan Curtis, Sean Raggett. They've got Conor Ogilvie, who was at Gillingham, great player, Joe Morrell. On paper, this is a strong side. They've also then got players that we rate that they don't. John Marquis is the obvious one, who was deadly at Doncaster, and chatting to the Portsmouth News late last night, and they don't rate him at all. Well, boys, if you don't want him, I know where we could have a temporary home for that man, because he is lethal on his day in the right team. I don't think he suits their style of play now. I don't think he suits their team now. Probably end up moving on. But certainly, he's what we lack, isn't he? Is that kind of selfish, out and out striker, which we pretty much know. So that's Portsmouth. Nothing else to talk about to do with Portsmouth, I don't think. They're a strong side. We know how they're going to play. We're quite familiar with their approach and their tactics. They've got decent players. They really have. And they've got options as well. George Hurst, who was at Sheffield Wednesday, I think it was, wasn't he? David Hurst's son. He's a decent lad. They've got, I think it's a Sam, who they signed from Norwich. Did really well in pre-season. Ryan Tunnicliffe, who was at Luton, I believe. It's a strong squad, and we're going to have our work cut out. But what I would point you towards is a couple of things about Lincoln City, and I think this is really where the kind of the focus of this short video was going to be. Was let's not forget what we've got. Now, I'm not talking about players, because we've got a lot of injuries and more players potentially out. We've seen Joe Walsh's 1 game this season, and now he's out till January. I mean, he's having injury hell. Scully might be out this encounter. There's a couple of others. Do you know what? When I read the news now, I never liked watching, a bit warm, I never liked watching horror movies. Don't like reading horror news stories anymore. So, we'll see when the team's picked. But we've actually got some positives. That sun's not good, is it? We've actually got positives now. We talk about them coming to us with 7 unbeaten. We've only lost 1 in the league in 7. And that was against Wimbledon, first minute penalty, which arguably was a game we should have done much better in. Game that, we were poor, but we didn't really deserve to lose. Didn't deserve to win. Didn't really deserve to lose. And actually, that's a pattern that's sprung up quite a bit recently. And I think, I've shaved it off, mate, annoying my skin. And that's a pattern I think recently that we've repeated a little bit, is we've gone into games where we haven't deserved to lose it and we haven't deserved to win it. Doncaster probably did enough on reflection to win the game. Sheffield Wednesday, we all came away from that feeling brilliant. It's only the same outcome as Doncaster. It's only the same outcome as Plymouth, who, by the way, is still top of the league. So that 2-2 draw doesn't look too bad, does it? Still the same as Shrewsbury. A game we were in control of until we lost 2 players through concussive injuries. Disagree. Wimbledon deserved to win that game. They had a couple of decent efforts. I think a draw was a fair result. If you had to pick a winner, it would have been them. I think we technically deserved to lose it. And that made me think, if we're drawing games, we're not actually in a terrible place. Now, it's not great. It's not, you're not going to win the league by picking up a point a game. You pick up a point a game, you go down. But the point is that I think at the moment, we're hard to beat. We're harder to beat than when we played Morecambe, for instance, when I thought we were very defensively frail. I think we've sorted that. I think Josh Griffiths has settled in very, very well. Good goalkeeper. I think defensively we're looking settled despite the injury. And we've got the option of TJ Aoma, who's not playing at the moment. So when we go into games, I don't feel that we're going to get beat. I just feel that we're not going to win. Now, the only difference between this season and last season is that. The only difference in everything that we do, in my opinion, is converting draws into wins. And you pick up some classic games last season. Blackpool away, 2-1 down, 10 minutes to go, 1-3-2. You look at Charlton at home, the deflected penalty, very, very even game. Look at MK Dons away, 1-2-1, could easily have lost that game. The one difference is what we keep saying, and I keep saying Groundhog Day, I keep saying it until January. But the one difference is being able to unlock the defences. We're no more boring, interesting, free-flowing, stunted, any of those things. We're no more of that than we were last season. We're genuinely not. We play the same patient build-up. We play across the back. We just don't quite have that penetration. We don't have that moment of brilliance. We don't have Brennan Johnson and George Grant. We know that. I'm getting sick of mentioning two players who left 5 months ago who are still, casting a shadow over this team. And we talk about tonight's game and the opposition manager and how, to a degree, their shadow is still cast over the squad in some respects from some people. Actually, it's not their ghost that's still walking the corridors of the EPC. It's Brennan Johnson and George Grant. And I'm not counting Morgan Rogers in that, because actually the idea of Morgan Rogers has become far more appealing to Lincoln City fans than Morgan Rogers. Decent player, no doubt about that. £4 million striker, not getting much game time at Bournemouth. And actually, take out a couple of individual wonder goals, and you could say the same about Fiorini, who scored 3 belters from range. Take out those from Morgan Rogers, and actually, you're left with 1 or 2 good outings. MK Dons at home won 4-0. He won a penalty, created some assists, that sort of thing. But I'm not sure that Rogers and Johnson deserve mentioning in the same breath. We know what we lack, but genuinely, I don't get this kind of train of thought that we're so substantially different to last season, because we're not. The difference is fans are there. And when a ball goes across the back, instead of being able to kick back on the warmth of the sofa and take another sip of the cup of tea or glance briefly at the phone while the ball's being played across the back, we're there wanting something to happen. So there's this perception that we're playing more negatively. And I think when you take last season, if you took those 2 players out and put 2 players in who struggle for form or are playing out of position, so I'm talking about a Delican struggling for form, I'm talking about Bishop on the left wing out of position. If you put those sort of players in the key positions from last season, you get the same outcome as you do this season right now. And I'm not going to say people's reaction frustrates me. It does, but people are entitled to an opinion. 100%. I'm entitled to mine. I'm giving it now. If you don't agree with it, I don't mind. I'm not challenging you. I'm not saying, I don't go, this is boring, change my mind, or this is brilliant, where are the doubters? I don't like that when an opinion comes with a challenge. When an opinion comes with an I'm right kind of thing. Opinion is opinion. Some people think we're boring. Some people think we play more negative football. Disagree. Some people think we're not as deadly in front of goal. 100%. 100%. And I think you only have to look at Dan and Underloo. He works hard. He's been working hard recently. Got 1 goal. I think his XG is about 4. He should have had more. He should have scored against Man United. He should have scored against Burton. Should absolutely have scored again at the weekend against Doncaster. But the point is, we are not far away. And yeah, we go into tonight's game and you look at their squad and you think, oh, we're a million miles from that. But actually, I think if I haven't got the league table to hand, but if 2 or 3 of those games that we'd drawn we turned into wins, wouldn't be far off where we were last season. Not a million miles. Yeah, lost a couple more games. It's a more competitive league. People have spent more money. There are better teams this season in the league than last season. You know, Ipswich are climbing. There's a shock. Said it was going to happen anyway. Rotherham doing well, Wickham doing well. Both of whom came down. Yeah, it's Wigan doing well, spent money. Sunderland not doing badly. Portsmouth will be on the up now. They've all got good squads. And I'm not saying we are where we are and accepting it with apathy. We had that in 2011, didn't we? March, beat Southend 2-1 and kind of had that, oh, well, we'll pick up a point in the next 10 games. We'll pick up 3 points in the next 10 games. You know, we'll get better. We're not that bad. There's worse teams than us. Apathy is dangerous. It's not apathy with me. It's just recognition. You know, just a look at this squad. We know it's light for 2 reasons. One, the transfer window didn't go entirely in our way. I firmly believe that we brought in the likes of Lasse Sorensen to play a role, but maybe not as significant a role as he's doing at the moment. He's still a very young man. I think we brought Dan and Lunderloo in to play second fiddle to Tom Hopper, and now he's having to be our main striker. Look how that worked out last season with Callum Morton. You know, if last season Tom Hopper had got injured when he did and we'd gone into the Christmas period with Callum Morton, do you think we would have been top at New Year? I don't. So I think you've got to look at those circumstances. And it is easy to say, well, manager and recruitment team fucked up. Well, there may have been errors made. I'm not going to whitewash that. You know, it would have been nice if we had signed somebody earlier. It's not always easy. We played a tactic that we thought was going to work for us, and it didn't work for us. It went the other way. And unfortunately, we've ended up in this position. But injuries haven't helped. You know, who are the 2 players who haven't been injured this season? Jamie Robson, TJ Omer, or did TJ arrive not fit and injured? Potentially just Jamie Robson, 1 player. It's not just us. Look at Doncaster, injury ravaged. I think they had 11 players out on Saturday. Look at Gillingham, asking to play a goalkeeper outfield. I've got this funny feeling that last season contributed to this. So many games in a short space of time, everyone playing Saturday, Tuesday, you know, for us going into the playoffs as well. I don't think that, I don't think that's helped. And it's a wider thing. I don't think we look at our team and we think, oh, we're suffering from injuries. There's something wrong with signing Crocs. Actually, if you look around, there's a lot of teams who are similar to us in terms of stature, who have played a similar game to us in that they're going for quality over quantity, or they're similar, like Gillingham, like Doncaster, and there will be others who have now got injuries because they've played a game and it hasn't worked off. And funnily enough, Gillingham and Doncaster, I think, are 2 teams that also waited in the transfer market. I think they're 2 teams that tried to play the game we've played, leave it till a bit later, get the better players, try and give yourself a competitive edge, because they're both teams with 10,000, 12,000 capacity stadiums. They're both teams that, you know, at their height can expect to get between 6 to 10,000. That's our size. They're our type of club. So I don't think it's any surprise to see the likes of us struggling, whereas Ipswich, Portsmouth, Sunderland, teams that can have bigger squads probably are doing a little bit better because they can work through those injuries. And I mean, even Portsmouth, I think, have got Jack Ogilvie at the back at the minute, who's been playing out of position. So, you know, it's easy to look at what we're doing and not look at everybody else and go, well, football's all about us, it matters about us. But actually, in the wider context, yeah, I think where we fit into the football world isn't actually that different. Yes, we've got 1 or 2 players who are injury prone. Ted Bishop seems to struggle quite a bit. Tom Hopper's in and out of the side recently. Not signed injured, by the way. Signed after a good season. Joe Walsh, yeah, the unluckiest man in the world, isn't he? Apart from Michael Appleton, probably. You know, honestly, Michael could fall into I'm not going to say that saying because it's probably sexist, but Michael Appleton just doesn't have any luck, does he? He signs players, they get injured straight away. Chris Maguire, Dan and Undlew in pre-season, so we were late started. You know, his big signing, Hakeem Adelican, hasn't really hit form. We're not doing anything different. He hasn't gone from being a great coach to a bad coach overnight. Took us to the playoff final last year. I'd say last year, that it was this year. Do you know what I mean? 6 months ago, we were getting ready to travel down to Wembley after that fantastic 2-0 win at Sincil Bank, and the resilience we showed in the second leg. It was a bit disappointing on the day in the Wembley heat, but overall, that was a hell of an achievement. And it's only now, I think, as things settle down and as teams start spending again and as normality returns to football after the pandemic, which is happening, you begin to see what an achievement last season was. What a huge achievement. And sometimes when you're living these things, it's very, very hard to look outside of it. I remember in the National League, as we were, I think it was late on, we played Bromley. I think it was Bromley. Did Billy not score and Alan Power get sent off? I remember looking to the skies and just thinking we're never going to go up. And my mate Pete, who's on this, was saying you'll get promoted from November, December. I was like, no, because when you're on the inside looking out, it's very different. You don't appreciate the gravity of what you're achieving until you can sit down and go, Jesus Christ, what's just happened? And now we're getting that reflection. Now we're getting that kind of look in the mirror to see what we actually are. And you can go, wow, look what we did do last season. Look what we did do. Look what we can still do. That's the point. The manager hasn't changed. The approach hasn't changed. The personnel has. One cog failed in this machine over the summer, somewhere, somehow. Not pointing fingers, but it did. And so what we're now left with is what we've got at the moment. I think get that tonight's game out of the way. I think we can go unbeaten until Christmas. Big bold statement. Boxing Day, MK Dons. And when you look at the league fixtures that we've got, Crewe, Doncaster, I think are two of them in particular. Yeah, I can see us going unbeaten until Christmas. I'm not sure if we've got many other league fixtures. We've got Hartlepool and Carlisle in the cup, both of which we should negotiate. We should have the tools to do so. And I do believe in January we will be a lot better. We signed Morgan Rogers very, very early in January last year. I expect us to do the same this year with a player with spark, with creativity, a player who can affect the outcome of a game very, very quickly. Got a few names that have been bouncing around. Not sure how true they are. I'm not going to repeat them here for fear of looking like a knob for being wrong. But there's one or two targets that I'm hearing about as well that you think, actually, it shows that we haven't regressed. We've merely hit a stumbling block. This isn't a regression in terms of our development. It's a slow patch where we had to turn over certain players and we haven't been able to get them back. And those saying recall Theo Archibald won't happen, I don't think we'll recall Theo. Played very well for Leyton Orient, but I think that we're looking for higher. We're aiming higher. We're looking for a different quality. We're not Portsmouth. We're not Sunderland. I think talked to the Portsmouth youths last night. They spent £900,000 on Joe Morrell. We ain't going to do that. Ain't going to happen. That's the playground that we're in. When I was at school, I mean, I didn't have a tough upbringing. Don't get me wrong. But when I was at school, I was the kid that had the Commodore 64 when some of the other kids had Amiga 600s or Atari STs. I was the kid that got the Amiga 600 when your mates got SNES. I was always one step behind, and I was happy with that. A lot of people were below me as well, and that's where we are. That's Lincoln City now. Lincoln City are like me. They're the kid in the playground with the Amiga, while everyone else is rocking the PlayStation. The other kids have got more means. Doesn't mean they're better kids. Other teams have got more players that we recognise. Doesn't mean that they're better teams. It means that they're better equipped. It's about your heart and your spirit, and I think that we've got that. I think the fact that we've gone 7 unbeaten, we've lost 1 in 7 rather in the league. I think it's a similar number in the cup. I think you look at that and you think, actually, we haven't done too bad, have we? I think if you throw the 2 cup games in there, I think it's 1 in 9. I might be wrong. And we've got that without a striker with lots of players injured. We know that I think we're at the lowest point that we will be in the season in terms of the squad and in terms of the players that we have. We just got to get through to January, and I firmly believe that. I don't think we'll be top 6 by the end of the season, but look, don't write us off. Don't think that next season, if we play this fixture again, we'll be 16th and they'll be wherever. I think they might be top 6. Still think we'll be top 10 if we get our recruitment right. We've got very few loan players that we're relying on at the moment. Very few. Josh Griffiths, certainly not Lewis Fiorini. He could be taken out of the squad. Dan and Lunderloo, we're relying on only through fitness, not through ability. I think that's a good position to be in. It's just about developing our own players. Look, I'm nearly at the road now, so I can't really go through any of your comments because the dog will need to go on his lead. I really appreciate you watching. I hope you enjoy the game. I hope that we keep the narrative about Lincoln City. I hope that we're very sensible about how we recognise the achievements of a previous manager. I know that when Wickham came a couple of years ago, Gareth Ainsworth got lots of stick and he came over and acknowledged us at the end, and we all acknowledged him back. There isn't an argument about who's better in the dugout. you know, I find it a shame that Michael feels the way that he does about being held in regard. But, you know, I think actually there is more regard for Michael Appleton than he realises. A few boos at the end of a game from a few people who find it very, very easy to reflect themselves or reflect their feelings, their beer-driven feelings at the end of a game do not reflect the rest of the fan base. So enjoy the game, wrap up warm. I'll be hiding behind a scarf to keep my face warm, and I'll chat to you all again very, very soon. Thank you very much. Goodbye.